Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. And just to let you know, first off, this is I'm not gonna turn my channel into just archiving videos I've done before, but I put a lot of work into a lot of these videos and I wanna show them to you guys, especially new subscribers that are new to my channel. So what you're gonna see, of course, is going to be some of the best videos that I've created of UFOs and people's eyewitness testimonies from the 50s or from the 40s actually up into the late 60s, possibly early 70s. So sit back, relax, put your comments down below what you think about this. And I do have some new material coming in the next day or two. I am working on several videos I think you guys will like. I do have stuff coming up about Billy Meyer, Bob Lazar, a couple other whistleblowers and people that have claimed they've worked on UFOs and stuff in the past. And I do got some unique eyewitness testimonies. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this. And I'll see you guys in a couple of days. Alright, y'all, to jump this off, this is going to be some eyewitness testimonies from a couple of people that have witnessed UFOs in the past. Some people are saying UAPs now, so I do have to mention that. But it's going to be coming from them. So you'll hear a couple people talking about what they saw and what they witnessed. It's pretty interesting to hear it coming from someone who witnessed it firsthand and not, of course, me going in and creating stories and stuff. I said this video is probably over a year old, but I did feature it on the channel, and it does have eyewitness testimonies. This is one of the persons that you're going to hear talking about what they saw and what they witnessed, and of course it's the interview for it, and you can see the expressions in their face when they talk and stuff about it. And then I'm going to have someone else come on here too for this particular video. Like I said, I have a lot that's going to come in this particular video, but I wanted to show this to you guys first because these are some of the more interesting ones. And coming from eyewitness testimonies too. Of course, Lieutenant Colonel Wendell Stevens, he saw some stuff too, and he's going to talk about that as well. So let me go ahead, let me quit my yapping, like I said, and let you guys enjoy these videos.
But all is not peaceful on the planet Earth because the saucer addicts are divided into cults, groups, and sects that range from the skeptical sighters who hope there is a logical answer to the true believers who feel sure the answer is being covered up by the military establishment. Perhaps the farthest out group is made up of the contactees. They have met, talked to, or even ridden with visitors from outer space. Here at Giant Rock in California's high desert country, one of the pioneer contactees, George Van Tassel, talked to CBS News correspondent Bill Stout.
We're riding on a electrostatic magnetic ship right now on the Earth, doing 66,000 miles an hour right now in an orbit around the sun, and we're all astronauts in that respect.
Have you ever gone up close enough to touch one, to see what was inside?
Bill, in August the 24th of 1953, I went aboard one for about 20 minutes.
What was it like? What happened?
Well, the interior walls were what looked like mother-of-pearl plastic, like we put on toilet seats and for decoration. The light inside seemed to come from everywhere. The instrument panel wasn't like anything I'd ever seen before in all of my years since 1927 in the air game. And they had a compartment in the wall which both cleans and deodorizes their clothes by some light process, which required no water, soap, or detergents, or a washing machine.
Alright, y'all, I thought that was pretty interesting, especially when he talked about he was inside the craft and like the lights was coming from everywhere, but he never saw any light bulbs, he described. And then also how he talked about how they kept their clothes and stuff clean. So that was pretty interesting, some of the stuff that he talked about here in this video. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump into our second video as well. Don't forget to leave your comments below on this video number 1. Alright, y'all, this second one, of course, I said there's only going to be 2 today. It's going to be from Lieutenant Colonel Wendell Stevens. So you guys know some information about him. But this was pretty interesting, too. And this actually happened in 1952, I believe. And I think it was around May or something. But you'll hear it in his testimony. So I'm going to go ahead and let this play, too, as well.
The next one that got any real attention occurred on the 11th of May of 1952 at McMinnville, Oregon, at about 7:30 in the early evening of 11 May 1952. Farmer Paul Trent was in the kitchen of his home when he heard his wife, who called to him from the backyard to come out and see the strange object that was approaching. And he immediately ran for his folding camera and dashed outside to meet her. There against the low overcast sky, he saw a circular dome disc with a tower on top of the dome, a raised cupola. It was moving fairly slow. He had plenty of time to frame it. He snapped the first picture, and then he had to move to his right to snap the second picture. There was no flame or efflux of any kind visible, no sound. It was completely silent. His wife didn't hear any sounds either. The pictures he took on the 11th of May, and he didn't report them until the 12th of June, when he had his pictures developed and back, and he showed them to a friend, Frank Wortman, who suggested they take him to the newspaper, and they took him to the Richmond, California Independent, where they looked at them, tested them, and published them for the first time. So now that it's 2 months after the pictures were taken before the information got out. But they have become a classic in the lore of UFOlogy, I guess if you want to call it now. And they've been verified by a number of researchers.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. As always, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Now, you always know that I've talked about this before. I do find the photos from probably around the late 1930s to probably mid 1970s to be some of the best UFO photos that are out there, because it was a little bit harder to fabricate this stuff and falsify any of these craft that they actually show in some of these photos you're seeing here. So in today's video, we're actually going to go back about 60 plus years back to the United States in a town called McMinnville, and is actually in Oregon. And this one's actually pretty interesting. It's been out there for a while, and it went viral several times, but I just wanted to kind of touch back on this. And this is actually a pretty interesting case because we actually have eyewitness testimonies of this. So Paul and Evelyn Trent was actually farmers, and one day Evelyn was actually out in her farm, and according to a lot of the reports of this, Evelyn was out there actually attending to her rabbits on her farm, and then she actually turned around and she noticed a craft in the air, and she couldn't believe her eyes, and she ran in and got her husband Paul, and her husband Paul actually had a camera. So what Paul did was, thank God, he went in, he grabbed his camera, and he went out, and they saw this craft still actually there in the sky when Paul actually went out. So luckily for us, he was able to take 2 photos of this craft. And these photos have been out there for a while, but this is going to be the photos that Paul actually took. And these photos have been out here for over 60 years. And according to their testimony, they actually saw this craft when they came back out to take these photos. The craft was there, and then it actually tilted up on its side and it actually flew away. And she said it flew away at a speed and a rate that she couldn't even fathom, especially at that time in the 1950s. So here's going to be some of her testimony on that.
And then as it tipped, and when it tipped, it had that wind. It just come up like that and tipped and just, I mean, it really went. It didn't have no smoke, no motor, just the wind onto it. And it would, I would say, right around the size of a big parachute, maybe a little bit bigger, but right around that size. It went fast. I've never seen anything go so fast in my life as that thing went.
And on top of all that, there are newspaper articles about this event. It wasn't just something that happened and it kind of got swept underneath the rug. There were several newspapers that actually picked up on this particular case and put photos out there, put documentation out there, interviewed the couple several times, which was actually pretty interesting and amazing with all this that was put out there with this. And a lot of people actually tried to go in. Some people tried to debunk it as something being falsified, but there's no way they could have went in and done this, especially at their farm. And even at some point in time, Time magazine had an article on it too. So that was pretty amazing too. So this is something that's out there. There's only these 2 photos of it, but it's still pretty fascinating. And to this day, from what I know of, you know, the couple never tried to profit on this. They never said, well, let's make a movie, let's make some money. They just saw what they saw, reported it, and put it out there. And even to this day, people are still going out. It's kind of interesting and kind of celebrating. It's like a festival and stuff. So you guys put your comments down below of what you think about this. I thought this was pretty interesting, and I want to at least bring it to your attention. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, stay tuned for the next video. Appreciate you guys. Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. So this is kind of a repost from when I first started the channel. I had to actually do some editing to this a little bit, but for you guys that are new to the channel, maybe not have seen this, the video is going to talk about the X-15. And it's going to be pretty interesting because there's actually a credible witness testimony that actually saw a UFO outside of the X-15 when he was actually doing a test flight on this. And this is pretty interesting. So if you guys don't know kind of the history of the X-15, it was one of the planes, I think it was the first ones to go kind of supersonic on it. It did go, I think it was about Mach 5 or 6. You guys see some information. There's tons of information about this craft out there, this plane about this right now out there if you guys Google search it and stuff, and you can find some information on it. But it was created, I believe, around the 1950s. They were doing their test flights, the mid-50s. But there was a pilot by the name of Robert White, or Bob White, who I actually want to talk about because he was one of the ones to give and step forward and give some testimony on a particular craft, or as he said, you'll see his testimony in just a minute, or I'll actually read it out to you, where he saw something actually outside the craft. And it was pretty interesting, and I had brought this to everyone's attention when I first started the channel. But he is actually credible. It's not like he's just some random pilot, or I'm not going to say random pilot because that's discrediting the other pilots, but he's not just one pilot that came out. He actually is credible for actually flying this several times, and his testimony is actually pretty interesting. So I'm going to pull this up and I'm going to read it. This is actually from a newspaper article that was actually put out there. And it says here, basically, these are exact words: "I have no idea what those objects were that I saw up there," White said. "I noticed a couple of particles first. They were very small, flaky objects. I thought they might be residue from the fuel engine that burns. Then I looked out the left windshield and I saw what looked like a piece of paper about the size of my hand. It was 30 or 40 feet away. It was grayish white. I looked at it for a few seconds before it moved away and I left. I still don't know what it is. I still don't know what it was." What I'm actually going to show you guys is the actual photos that were taken while he was actually in flight. And this I don't know, it just still amazes me that this information still hasn't gotten out. But I'm here to show this to you guys. So here you're going to actually see the photos. There it is there. You guys see that in the top right hand corner? And I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so you guys can see this as well. Here it is, zooming in on it. So this is the actual photo that was taken, and this is what he actually saw out there, and this is where that article came from. And you guys can Google search this, you can backtrack and find that this is actually valid. It's just hard to actually get this particular photo that you see here. I thought this was pretty interesting and something that I did want to show to you guys and kind of repost this video out here. So tell me what you think. I mean, of course, during the 50s, there weren't many satellites out there or anything like that. And here's a close-up of this image here. It's kind of hard to see, but at that time, this was actually a good photo of whatever he saw out the back of this X-15 as he was flying. So I thought this was pretty interesting. So you guys put down the comments below of what you think about this, and I'll try to find the article and the magazine and stuff where he actually talked about this and leave a link below in the description. But I have more information on particular things like this if you guys want to hear about whistleblowers before they were called whistleblowers back in the 40s and 50s and 60s and even 70s that talked about seeing things. But I always liked this particular craft, this X-15. I thought it looked pretty cool. It's like a big missile. But I have a lot more information on things like this. So put down in the comments if you want to see more videos like this. So I'm pretty sure you guys do. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, share this with your friends, and then stay tuned for the next video. As always, I appreciate you guys watching. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So you are pretty familiar. If you're not, you will get somewhat familiarized with it in this video, but I have a full video on Foo Fighters. There was a lot of big buzz about this in the early 1940s about these particular balls of light, spheres type UFOs that flew around airplanes. People thought they were a Nazi secret weapon, which they could have been, but I have a full video I did on that. There'll be a link at the end of this video to that. You guys can go and check that out. But in today's video, I want to actually introduce you to someone that may have seen it firsthand with him and his crew. What you're seeing here is possible photos from actual Foo Fighters and stuff that actually transpired during the 40s and the 50s. But in this video, I'm going to introduce you to James Howard. In July 1954, he was flying a BOAC Stratocruiser, and him and his crew actually saw 7 UFOs. What he describes and what he says is he saw 1 large UFO and then he saw 6 small UFOs, which is pretty interesting. There's going to be what he drew of the larger UFO, and then the smaller ones are going to be there. And he said they actually saw this for about 38 minutes. And in his own words, he said it was no illusion and it was handled intelligently. So with that, he observed these 7 craft for, was reported about 38 minutes. He had a news broadcast afterwards, and then he drew on this chalkboard what he saw and what he observed from these UFOs, which is pretty interesting. So I got a couple of clips I'm going to show you guys so you can hear it in his own words and what he actually stated and saw, because he said this craft actually morphed and took a different shape.
In relation to it, something like this. They were sometimes ahead of it, sometimes behind, and the shape of this object was continually changing. Sometimes one end would appear to disappear, sometimes this was very much larger, sometimes it was almost a V-shaped affair like this.
Now, in today's world, we're no stranger to triangular shaped craft or anything of that such. We know that there's particular patents out there for it and designs and stuff that have been out there that you can actually search on the internet and see. But we have never heard of these particular craft taking different forms and shapes as they actually fly along. And that's what he saw with his in 1954. So pretty interesting that he saw that and observed that.
It was always black silhouette and always quite a clear edge to it.
And when it finally disappeared, it seemed to dissolve.
Yes, the smaller ones just disappeared first, and this shrunk down until it was no more than just a speck, and then even that disappeared.
There you guys have it, straight from the horse's mouth, as the saying goes. Never heard of a testimony like this, especially coming from an airplane pilot where there wasn't all these kind of disclosure things going on, all that, and never heard of something like this actually morphing and taking shape as he described in this video. And it doesn't fit the characteristics of the ones from the early 40s, mid 40s, and probably early 50s as well. But pretty interesting testimony. I wanted to present this to you guys to get some of your opinion and thoughts on it, because this one has not been debunked. It's still out there and it's still valid today. So if you guys like seeing videos like this, I'll dig into the archive, pull up a couple more things and show it to you guys as time progresses on. So as always, don't forget to comment about this video, what you think about it, like, subscribe, share this with your friends, and then stay tuned for the next video. As always, I appreciate you guys watching. Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. So I've read through the comments, and a lot of you guys are like me. You like seeing a lot of the old information or the old photos of UFOs and videos from the 50s to about early to mid 60s. And that's kind of some of the stuff that you're seeing here. And this was a little bit more authentic, and it was a little bit more difficult to fake, especially a lot of these photos and stuff that you're seeing here. They didn't have the software and the technology, of course, that we have today just on a cell phone. They didn't have that. So today we're going to be looking at an incident with William Rhodes, and I'm just calling this the Rhodes UFO incident. Now, before we talk about what he saw, it's good to note that on June 24th, 1947, Kenneth Arnold saw something similar, and he's the one that was kind of made it publicly known, and kind of the term UFO and flying saucers kind of came about with this. And there's a whole report on that. I'll do a video on this pretty soon, where the CIA investigated and everything, and they couldn't determine what it was, but there was a lot of drawings and sketches on this. But with the case with William, he was walking home one day, and as he was walking home, he said he was going home to his workshop. He said he heard a whoosh sound, and at that time, he was thinking that it was like a P-80 airplane or something flying above him. But when he stopped to look and looked up, he didn't see an airplane. He went in, he grabbed his camera, and he was able to take these photos. He said this craft had passed by him at least 3 times, but I think on the second pass, it actually went silent. He wasn't able to hear it anymore. And then from that point, he said when the craft left, it left some vapor trails in the air, which is pretty interesting because I've never heard of a UFO leaving something like this. So it makes me think that this is possibly something that was man-made. Not 100% sure, but it resembles somewhat a way like Kenneth Arnold's report and what he saw. Of course, it's the art and rendering that you have there with Kenneth Arnold. But these photos were so important that it was actually included in a book that Kenneth Arnold wrote with someone else. And they included these 2 photos that he took in there. But looking back at these photos, it's pretty interesting to look at this. I mean, you guys can see here, it looks like it may be tilting at somewhat of an angle. And then on the second photo, it looks like it may actually be taking off. And you can kind of see the underside of it. You can see that little white center or white light in the center of it, but I don't see anything coming out the back, making me think that this may have been something that was brand new for them, of course, to see back then. But these are the photos we have of it. But this could be possibly man-made. I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it isn't. It could be maybe an early model of the famous TR-3B that we have not seen, but we just have particular photos of it, thinking that this may be it. Or it could be something resembling this right here. This one was taken in 1979, I believe it was, and it's kind of a U-shape or a horseshoe shape UFO or craft, but it doesn't have lights on the one that he took where this one does. So it's pretty interesting, but I wanted to present this to you guys because it was enough for it actually to be even reported in Project Blue Book. In Project Blue Book, this was reported as incident number 40, if I recall, on there. And I was trying to find the report on it, but I couldn't find it, which you guys may find. If you do, put it in the comments below. But I always think that this right here is a pretty interesting discovery, and the photos that he took for it was pretty good too. So put down in the comments what you guys think about this, and as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next video. As always, I appreciate you guys watching. Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. So I'm just going to jump right into this. First time I saw this footage, I thought it was fake. I saw it again, I said this is fake, looks like someone's tethering something. You can't make out the craft or anything, but looking at some other video footage and photos that I have, this may be an authentic UFO video or even ARV footage. And this footage comes from George Adamski. Now, I'm going to do a full-blown video on him. It's probably going to be a 20-30 minute video talking about what he saw, some of the videos and photos that he has. But when I started looking back at that footage and doing some research and looking at some of the photos I have in my archive, that particular video and that craft does resemble and remind me of stuff like what you're seeing here. This one was taken in China. It was in the early 1940s. It was a Japanese officer that was out there in China, and people were pointing up, and he actually saw this and he took a photo of it. Now, taking a photo in the 1940s is hard to kind of fake some of this stuff, what you're seeing here, and I always believe this is going to be authentic, and it does resemble in some ways of that first UFO or ARV that George took. And then there was people that saw something similar. As you see here, someone sketched this out. They saw this from a bedroom window. The only thing I look at is when they talk about, you know, the realistic trail of smoke coming from the rear of it. So this may actually be a ARV and not a UFO as what George saw. But I posted a video a couple of days ago, and in there I showed this photo. Now, there wasn't any detail on this photo except for someone found in the family Bible, and it was in the 60s, and it basically went viral, or as much as it could go viral at that time. And you can clearly see that this does resemble that video of the UFO or ARV that George took. You can see the shape and stuff, and I'll show comparisons to his video that he took. It's just this shows more detail than his video does, and I don't know why this one shows more detail than his video does, but you can see there a couple of things with it. You see underneath it, it's got those kind of rounded balls, which may be some kind of anti-gravity device or something for it. The sun kind of reflecting off of it too. You can see all that there, but this does resemble that in a lot of ways. And that could just be me, and I'll explain why it looks kind of weird in the actual photo there to your left. But looking at other photos around that time, you do see craft that looks similar to it, like what you're seeing here. And these photos, when you try to bring them in through video, they kind of get blurred and distorted, especially when you start to zoom in on them. But the photo or the actual video of what George recorded, I'm going to show you right here. And this is kind of what amazed me as I looked at this and heard a couple of people talking about it. The craft is moving. It does look like it's tethered from a string. I'm still going to say that, but it's probably not. But the shape changes. If you guys can see that as the craft moves, the shape changes there, and those little balls underneath it, whatever we're going to call it, they start to protrude from underneath the craft, as you see right there. And then as the craft starts to move again, those balls seem to retract back underneath the craft. And then that far right end seems to somewhat distort or get longer as the craft starts to move around. Now, like I said, it's hard to tell because you can't see detail. It just looks like a shadow or a cutout. But right here is where it's going to distort its shape a little bit, where the right side looks a little bit longer than the left side. And then there's some testimony on this. Some people had looked at this in the early 80s, and some people had talked about this too. And I'm going to actually play this. I'm going to shut up so you guys can hear this testimony from someone talking about this craft.
The scout craft never touches the surface of the planet. In other words, when it comes down to land, even when the propulsion system is shut, what you and I would consider off, there's always a trickle charge going through, so it maintains several inches off the surface of the ground. So the three balls that you see underneath the saucer portion of it have nothing to do with landing pod, because the craft never rests on the ground. These are part of the propulsion system that help to direct the magnetic field and the magnetic flux underneath the craft.
And with that said, there was a couple that took their very first flight in the 40s, and they recorded what was a UFO. Now, people have said this was just a shadow over camera, and what you're seeing here is a couple of photos from it. I'm going to play the video. It's very, very short. But she was just filming the landscape, and then she caught this as she was filming the landscape, and this craft or UFO looks like it does distort or move. And here's going to be the video footage here. All right, so I said it was quick, and I'm going to slow it down some. Some people have tried to say it was a shadow, that she caught a shadow or a glimpse of something, but you didn't see it anywhere else in her footage, and that was my debate on this. But you clearly see the craft there. It looks like it's turning, and then it shoots away. And we've heard people talk about this, especially during the 50s and 60s, seeing these craft up, the shape gets distorted, and then it turns into a little dot and it's gone. And we're no stranger to seeing that nowadays. And this was actually analyzed by several people, and they came to the conclusion that this was something that was unidentified. They didn't even think about a shadow or anything like that. And the skeptics talked about it, but it came to the conclusion that this was, or what she filmed was, an unidentified object, unidentified flying object, or a UFO. Which brings me back to the stuff with George. So I'm going to look at this stuff a little bit closer and try to present as much evidence as I can just to show this to you guys. But I'm interested in your thoughts on it. So put your comments down below of what you guys think about George's footage, what you think about this footage or this video or photo right here, and other things too. And don't forget to like, subscribe. I'm going to do a video probably the next week to talk more about George, and I'll see you guys then. As always, I appreciate you guys watching. That are not familiar with the whole case, Rex was out there and he saw an object, and he took 3 photos. Now, in the first video that I did of this, I was only able to find 2 of the photos. So I did talk about in the video, he has a little audio where he did an interview and he said he was out and about. He saw this craft out there, long story short, and he got his camera out. And with that, he was able to take 3 photos, but I was only able to find 2 photos. And you guys will see how this, like I said, it's a whole case behind this and it's never been debunked, but there was actually 3 photos he took. So when I was hearing about the 3 photos, I couldn't find the 3rd photo, but I heard that there was a 4th photo too. So what you're seeing here is going to be the 3 photos that he took of this craft that he saw. And you guys see the shape of the craft, flat bottom, round top, typical UFO that we've seen over the, I guess, the last, during the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and probably early 70s and stuff. But there is a 4th photo, and this looks like one of the ones Bob Lazar talked about, saying it had designed like a top hat and stuff, but I'll get into that in another video. But with this, like I said before, there is a 4th photo, and I'm going to show this to you in just a minute. But like I said, I do want to also again thank Sarah for this, because I wasn't aware there was a 4th photo, and she let me get some information on us, let me be aware of the 4th photo. So thank you, Sarah, and I appreciate all you guys that send me stuff over, because I can't do this alone. I do need you guys' help with this. But here's going to be a look at this 4th photo that he took. There you guys see it there. So long story short, as he took the 3 photos, he saw the craft shoot down, I think it was about a mile and a half down the road, and he saw this black vapor smoke. So he drove about a mile down and he was able to capture the photo you see here. It seems like the craft was there and it shot off, and this is kind of the vapor smoke. He said it was a purple blackish, and he had a clearer photo, but this is the clearest one that I can get of this. So you clearly see that if this photo here is authentic and legit, you can clearly see that it's kind of the shape of the craft, and he said it was a black purplish smoke. So I don't know if the craft, I'm not even gonna try to explain what the craft is. So you guys put down in the comments what you think, but you can clearly see some kind of smokish around the craft. That's the best way I can describe it. Basically having the structure of the craft when it took off. Now, what actually transpired and happened there, I don't know. We don't have a color photo because it was in the 50s when this was taken, but it's clearly resembling a lot to the shape of the craft of the 3 photos that he took before. And you guys can see that there. Pretty interesting stuff. Like I said, I don't know why this 4th photo hasn't been talked about more in ufology, and this hasn't been revealed more. Maybe this was something that was kind of pushed under the rug, or people's like, oh, that's not important. But I wanted to show this to you guys because this is important if this photo is legit, that he took this 4th photo in this craft when it took off, and he went down the road, like I said, about a mile or so, and he saw it, and he said it was a purple blackish smoke around. It's more black around than purple around the other areas of it. But if you look at this, it's just interesting. And if you try to lighten up the colors here, you can see a little bit more of the shape. There you guys see this there. So I just wanted to present this to you guys about this 4th photo because it's very interesting. I wanted to get your comments on this. And like I said, once again, thanks Sarah for this, because she let me know that there was this 4th photo for it. So you guys put down in the comments what you think about this, because I've never heard of a craft leaving smoke or leaving a smoke shape of the craft when it actually left off. But we don't know what these things can do, and you know exactly what this craft was, if it was a ARV, alien reproduction vehicle, or if it was extraterrestrial or interdimensional. I don't know, but I do rely on you guys to put your comments down below in case someone comes across this video sometime in the future. They can at least look in the comments and see what some of the people are saying, and someone may know what this craft did, why it left that smoke there. So if you do, put it down in the comments or just take some guesses. I don't know. I don't care. I just want to hear you guys' feedback on this, because this is a pretty interesting photo if this is 100% legit, and they say it is. So trying to find all the sources stuff for us. When I have that, I'll update you guys on that. But pretty interesting stuff that we see here. So leave your comments what you guys think about this. And someone did send me 2 video clips. Now, before you guys get into saying, oh, it's just a sheet of paper or something, I want you to actually look at this and, you know, see what he's talking about here. He saw this object here. He's got 2 video clips, and it actually changes shape. So I'm going to quit my yapping real quick. I'm going to let the videos play, and then I'll come back in just a minute.
Pero vamos a ver. A lo mejor. Ahí voy, tía, ahí voy. Ah, ¿no está mi mamá? No, 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 tía, nomás vengo pues a saludar, pero mire.
De la gripa, creo.
¿Eh? Yo andaba. Sí, pues de como unos 3, 4 días. Amanecí todo con mocos y quién sabe qué. Mire, tía, venga. Mire. Ahí va, aquí en el teléfono, mire. No way.
All right, y'all. So this could be a number of 1,000,001 things, but I at least wanted to show it to you. Clearly see something falling there. And you would think it's sheet of paper, balloon, or something like that. But what he was saying that he's seen this before. And as you see this falling down, it looks to be maybe a balloon or a sheet of paper. But for some reason, it kind of morphs and transforms right about there. You guys see that there? It's kind of blurry, but... And then it goes in kind of this circle ball, and then it goes behind the trees. So I'm not sure what to make of this. We've heard about these craft kind of transforming like this, but leave it in the comments what you think about this. I didn't want to speculate too much, but I did want to get your feedback on this, that it goes from that and then it goes to kind of this sphere or ball-shaped object.